In the last video, we sketched out a design for a tic-tac-toe game. Now we'll need to convert that design into code. We'll begin by creating a framework. At the moment, we don't have a program, just some comments. So let's make some decisions. Our program is supposed to play a game, so this should be our main function. We'll just fill in an empty main function and convert each line into a separate comment. Don't forget to return 0 at the end of main. And this will be a function that main calls. We don't yet know what arguments it will take or what it will return. So I'll just define it as void, as a placeholder. We'll revisit this once we have a better sense of how main will use the function. Now let's start replacing comments with code. I'm going to start at the beginning of the game. The board is definitely something our program needs to store, so we'll need to define a variable for it. Since we know that our board is guaranteed to always contain 9 elements, we could use an array to represent the board, allowing us to easily store and fetch data through indexing. But which data type should we use for each element of our array? Using either ints or chars would be acceptable. You could implement the program with either option. In this video, we'll use a char array so that it might be a bit easier to visualize. Let's simply name it board. In main, we have a task, defining an empty board. We'll declare board here. We shouldn't just leave the elements uninitialized, so let's set each position to space to start. The next thing we need to do is write our loop, and that means we need to decide how main will interact with turn. The loop needs to know whether the game is over or not, and the check is occurring within the function turn. Now that I think more about that doesn't make sense. It's probably better if the check occurs in main, after the player takes a turn. So let's change it. We don't have to stick with our design when we realize that it isn't perfect. Okay, so now we are checking the board in main. However, we still need to know what that check will find. There are a few possible results, or states. The game could be unfinished, player O could win, player X could win, or the game could end in a tie. We could represent these 4 states in different ways, with defined integer constants, for example, or with strings. For this video, we'll use defined string literals. I'm going to use the strings that I want to print when the game ends, and the empty string if the game isn't finished yet. Now we're ready to write our loop. The loop should end when the game is finished. So that means that the loop should continue if the state is unfinished. Inside our loop, we'll perform a turn and then check the board. We need to define the variable state. When the game starts out, the state is unfinished. Let's pause to compile. We don't want to let syntax errors pile up, and everyone makes a typo sometimes. Well, not this time, but that's unusual for me, if I were doing this live and not on video. Now we have some choices. We could start implementing a single turn, or we could write the code to check the board and declare a winner. Let's do this because it allows us to test. Declaring the winner and ending the game is very simple. Our code just prints the final status and exits. But checking the board looks more difficult. So let's create its own function. It will need the board that it is checking, and it should return the state of the game. From how it was called in main, we know exactly what the signature of the function must be. However, implementing it will take some thought. This function might get a bit lengthy if you don't plan it out beforehand, and we'll do that in the next video.